Okay, so we are now going to talk about mathematical jargon. Okay, um, and jargon has this negative connotation to it, but this is particular mathematical terminology, technical ways of speaking. Um, and these are all. It's important to know this because of proofs later on, and also to be able to communicate at a higher level. So the acute obtuse thing or the drag and drop thing, they allow you to get it right all the time, and it's a great way to introduce the topic to somebody. But at some point, you do need to understand this vocabulary. And here are the four um, expressions, if you will, or statements that you need to know with respect to the parallel lines cut by a transversal. The first is that alternate interior angles of parallel lines are congruent. The second is alternate exterior angles of parallel lines are congruent. The third is that corresponding angles of parallel lines are congruent. And the fourth is consecutive interior angles of parallel lines are congruent. Now, I used to hate math when I would have a teacher that would come in the room and say, sound like this. Just do it. Just do what I tell you. That's what they would say. And in my mind, I'm translating it to, I am God, and you shall do it thus because I say it so. And I just don't think that any teacher is God. And I don't think that you do things just because the teacher told you to. I think that you have to be able to understand and see what's going on behind it. And I really don't like memorizing. I don't enjoy it. I like to understand things. I like things to make sense to me. And I like to do them and understand them from different perspectives. So with this terminology, sometimes you can get this kind of rebellious feeling welling up inside of you, like, oh man, I don't want to do it this way. And I get that. I understand. I didn't like doing it this way either when I tried to memorize it. But when I tried to understand it, it was a whole lot easier for me. So let's try to break this terminology down. Okay? The first thing I want you to do is look at the words interior and exterior. They refer to the parallel lines. The interior means it's inside the two parallel lines. Exterior means it's outside the two parallel lines. So for the first, second, and fourth statements, we just need to know what interior and exterior mean. Exterior inside parallel lines, exterior outside parallel lines. All right, so what do we have next? Well, the next term that we have and we see is this term alternate. And alternate means switch sides of the transversal. Now, I can be alternate interior. I could also be alternate exterior. But the thing we know is that alternate interior angles of parallel lines are congruent. Now, if you look carefully, they're both acute. So we know that they are going to be congruent to each other. But those two pentagonal, I should say, pointers that are pointing to those very specific angles are congruent angles because alternate interior angles of parallel lines are congruent. Not only that side, but also the other side. But it's not only true of alternate interior, it's also true of alternate exterior. Oh, look, I left the one pointer on there. Sorry about that. Alternate exterior angles. See, they do switch sides of that transversal, but now they're on the outside of the parallel line, so that's why they are alternate exterior angles. I can move it. Look, they have to alternate sides. They can't be on the same side, but they can switch sides. Now those angles are congruent. So alternate interior angles are congruent, alternate exterior angles are congruent. You can always confirm if you doubt what you're trying to remember and you're like, oh man, were they supplementary or were they complementary or were they congruent? What were they? First off, there's no complementary in any of these pictures. But you could look at it and say, well, are they both acute? Then they're equal. If they're both obtuse, they're equal. If one's acute and one's obtuse, then they're supplementary. So you can use that to confirm your understandings. Okay, so let's go back and mention that interior means on the inside of those parallel lines. So now, these are what we call consecutive interior. In other words, they are in a row, one right after the other, on the inside. They do not alternate. Notice this is the only one that's on the same side. And those are the only ones that are going to be supplementary. Okay, so you know alternate means alternate which side of the transversal. You know interior means between the two lines. You know exterior means outside the two lines. And then you can understand the statements that alternate interior angles of parallel lines are congruent, because you could look at them and say, hey, they're both acute, or hey, they're both obtuse, so of course they're congruent. You could say that the corresponding angles of parallel lines are congruent, and we did that before. We covered that when we did drag and drop, they land on top. So whenever that happens, we know they're going to be congruent. And then consecutive interiors, like the diamonds here, these are pictures of supplementary. Okay. Oh my God, it says congruent here. I need to change that. See, so this should say supplementary. Okay, good. And I have to fix it here too. Supplementary. And you may think, why make a new videotape? Well, or why not make a new video? I don't want to, because I think when you see me make mistakes, A, it makes me look human, and B, when you will remember the mistakes, and then you won't make the same ones. So that's a beautiful thing. Okay, so let's do the so far summary for technical math terms. Interior, inside the parallel lines. Exterior, outside the parallel lines. Alternate, switch sides of the transversal. Corresponding, drag and drop, they land on top. Consecutive, that means they're in a row, they do not alternate. Okay, and remember, consecutive interior angles are supplementary. That's the mistake that I just fixed.